All right, we're delving into behavioral tools. The structure of this and all the other units is similar to the structure of the intro unit and the format. There's a little more here because the intro was an intro unit, and now we're getting into the real self-management modules. In this behavioral tools log, there's an antecedent control part and a consequence control part. Some tools focus on using the antecedents to control behavior. Some behavioral tools focus on using the consequences of behavior or thoughts or feelings to help control those behaviors or thoughts or feelings. There's an exam after readings and often some examples that I hope are illustrative and kind of fun. Then there's 2 projects in this unit. One you might think focuses on antecedent control and the other on consequence control, but no. There's just 2 different ways of applying tools, and they have different purposes. Both are important. This is the behavioral tools log where you can record your use of behavioral tools, antecedent and consequence control, in your daily life. It's surprising how much we actually already use these tools. Sometimes misuse them, but usually use them. Now you want to focus on self-management, not what others use to control you, which I'll call other management, or your control of others, which could also be called other management, but instead your use of these for self-management. And I would actually start this tools log at the very beginning of the unit, not wait till the end, which I know is normal, but if you make log entries as you're doing the readings, you'll be able to bring the readings to life. The readings will have more purpose because you'll say, well, what's this thing? I think it's antecedent control, and then try to find it in the readings. Or as you go through the readings, focus on an antecedent control technique and then say, let's see if I can find that in my daily life, and then spend the rest of the day occasionally thinking about that. There's 10 entries needed for the behavioral tools log, so if you're starting this later, you might need to make 2 entries a day. The graphing project involves just recording something for 7 days. It may be something that's already being recorded by your phone or watch or computer, or part of your workout routine. You then could simply graph it, or you could start just graphing one of those. The idea here is to provide in 2 different ways a more focused awareness of what we do in our daily lives in terms of a particular type of self-management technique, the behavioral techniques. There's always a discussion, totally optional, at the end where you can get a little extra credit, 2 points, for posting to the discussion board based on your reading of these or anything in the unit. And you can start your own thread, add to somebody else's thread. But that's the basic breakdown then. Antecedent control tools, readings, an exam, consequence control tools, reading and an exam, 2 projects. And the deadline here is 5 p.m. DC time, Thursday. That's the final hard deadline. You have 2 weeks to, from the end of this deadline to this deadline, you have 2 weeks to do all this work. Try to plan. It's a sort of self-management, it's true. Try to plan to do these well before Thursday at 5. You get extra credit for it, as you know. Complete the 2 exams in this unit of 2 days, 48 hours or more before this deadline, and you get 2 points of extra credit, not per exam, but total. And then complete the 2 projects 24 or more hours before this final hard deadline, and get 2 more points of extra credit. With the discussion posting, if you choose to do it, totally optional again, you could get up to 6 points of extra credit for this unit. All right, I designed these units so that you read the stuff here, and then you go and read the stuff here, and then do the stuff here, and in sequence. So this is a very important message. Always click to open up, or tap if you're using a tablet. You can read quicker than I can read out loud, so I'll just let that happen. Here's an orientation, the mini lecture here you're probably listening to. There's some other things as well. Let's see. The antecedent control tools reading, let me just take you on a brief tour of these readings. Again, these are from chapters from a book, 2 books actually I wrote. for this course using examples, with permission from the students, of AU students' work in the area of self-management. Let's take a quick look at the PDF, which I've already downloaded, I believe. It downloads pretty quickly. Here we go, antecedent control tools. Since it's a PDF, you may or may not have the thumbnails turned on, but you can always scan there to look for things. But I'm going to point out a few things here that are particularly important. Oh, let me raise this. See, it's a bit in the shadow there. Sorry. I do have some introductory material here. You may have read this before in the intro for self-management, but maybe not. This is the intro to tools. And even though there's more covered here than just the antecedent tools, you are responsible for this, and I present it here as a general framework for tools of self-management. So please take a little time studying this. It's meta, or self-management of self-management. In a way, this course is kind of meta self-management anyway. So, all right, these are the sequences in problem solving, which itself is a self-management technique we'll read about in the cognitive part of the next unit. Also, it seems like common sense. You might even view this as sort of a business practice or a scientific practice, and I think it is. There's an organization of the different techniques here that I hope you will focus on and read. And so on when you get to the antecedent techniques. One of the things I do after a general introduction to the class of techniques, in this case behavioral techniques and antecedent in general, is I present a bit of theory, in this case conditioned and unconditioned responses, discriminative stimuli. These are all important for understanding the tools. They give you basic principles that you can apply to a lot of these tools. So please read and study these. Anytime a writer bold faces something like here, that's because they think it's real important. So be sure to attend to that. I don't need to tell you that, I'm sorry. And then here's the structure of the readings for each tool. There's a general class of tools, transferring control from innate to conditioned stimuli. That gives you a basic orientation to this. And then an example of the tool. For desensitization, for sensitization, I provide examples, and then I give basic steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hints for desensitizing yourself, hints on how to use these techniques for self-management, because some of these are used in therapy as well. And then covert modeling, participant modeling. We'll talk about this more later, but I always have an exercise for the tool. And then I get on to the next tool. Sensitization is very different than desensitization, by the way. And again, you see an example, basic steps, you get the idea. And I do this for each of the tools. So I just wanted to alert you to the structure there. And then as you get toward the bottom of the readings, sometimes I have more information. This is relaxation, which is really important for desensitization. And it's a basic area to study there too. This is a little different than regular relaxation. All right. Getting back to, let's see, the course here, the readings. I don't need to cover the readings anymore. You got the basic structure for all future tools readings. When we get to steps, it'll be a little different. So I have an exam on the antecedent tools then. Do check out the example. By the way, this is a cool example from AU. And how antecedent control tools are made available to you for an area that most people try to work on at some point or another in their life, and that's public speaking anxiety. Then consequence control tools, another illustration here. This is an illustration from Fender guitar, sort of a nice example I thought I'd bring in. Then another exam. Each exam has 25 items, 25 questions. Some of them are multiple choice, some multiple answer, which means you need to select all the correct answers and none of the incorrect answers. Multiple choice is just select the one correct answer, and some true false, some matching too. And you have 25 minutes to do these exams and complete them 48 or more hours beforehand to get yourself 2 extra points. The 2 projects here, I hope you'll begin as you do the readings. Let me delve into these projects a little bit more. Whenever I have this sort of avoid this, that's something to do, to read about. I have templates and then I have examples. Now the templates are basically blank forms for you to fill out. They have guidance in columns. They have instructions that are important to read, of course. And then the example gives you an idea of what I'm looking for. Some of these examples are from AU students, always with their permission, from a few years ago. So they may use a template that's a bit old. Be sure to use the instructions for this template. Don't make yourself a template based on the example. And since the templates are available in Word and Pages format, let's open it up just to show you what I'm talking about. Some instructions here to read. And then template in Pages format. It's a free word processor on all Apple devices, and Word, which a lot of people use. You can also import this into Google Docs, I believe. So don't need to buy any additional software for this course. Let's see. An example gives you an idea of what I'm looking for too. Let's see. Here the example. It's in PDF, de-identified. And I believe I've already downloaded this, so yeah, there we go. So here's an example, former student, don't forget to fill in the name, and then you can see that in addition to these instructions, which remind you to make sure that you're recording in the log instances of self-management, not management by somebody else, like what they did to you, how they reinforced you, or how they used stimulus control on you. You describe what you did. These entries, these examples in the logs are not perfect, but they're not bad. I would record one of these a day if you have enough time left before the final deadline, or 2 a day if you don't, or 3. Hopefully it's not that tight. Notice the degree of specificity that I'm expecting. A lot, actually. Now, if you're going through the readings and you say, this is an instance of self-management, but I'm not sure what it's called, you could always leave this blank until you get to it in the readings. And then you can record what happened, whether it worked or not. Don't worry about that. It was just an attempt at self-management. And if you have to really try to shoehorn the technique into one of the behavioral tools and it doesn't quite fit, well, then consider another entry. We all do self-management at this level lots every day. So you should have a lot of opportunities for entries. You can see from the thumbnails here, there's a lot of other examples. A variety of techniques, some antecedent control like stimulus control, some consequence control like punishment by withdrawal are used. Now make sure that when you use negative reinforcement or punishment, you're doing it correctly. It's a bit tricky. It's often good to go back and challenge yourself and say, what else could that be called? Same thing for, well, you can see they're using a variety of techniques, Premachian reinforcement, and they go through it. So that's the example. Moving back out here, I guess the only other thing, here's the upload link in PDF format. You need to export from Word or Pages or Docs or whatever. That should be pretty easy. Don't leave it at the last minute because it has to be uploaded here. If it's late for any reason, it's a 0. Okay, enough. Sorry. The second project is a graph. The idea here is to build, I'll call it self-monitoring awareness, and to get comfortable with spreadsheets if you're not. Some people are very comfortable with spreadsheets and graphs already, some not so much. So here I have instructions, an example, and then an upload link. The instructions give you basic advice. They describe the sort of variable behavior, a thought, a feeling, a pattern that you do that you should graph. Now, it shouldn't be somebody else's or general phenomena like the temperature today, but it could be like your body temperature. That's great that you can get thermometers that measure that in very small increments. And in fact, some smart watches, smart rings, smart phones even assess that to some degree. Notice the sort of variables I'm looking for. These terms, frequency, ordinal, or interval, may be things you're very familiar with. They may seem odd or even a little threatening, but I give examples for each, like the number of times you vaped today. That would be a frequency. Hopefully you're not vaping, but if you are, nothing wrong with recording that and, starting to work on it. You don't have to actually change it. We're not asking for that now at all. I'm just asking that you record it. How well you slept, you could rate it, or you can use your watch. Sometimes a ring or a band will actually collect that data for you. And if it collects the data for you, great. You can just enter it in the spreadsheet. I'll show you how in just a minute if you don't know. And a ratio variable is fine too. Record entries for 7 consecutive days to see a weekly cycle. I really emphasize the 7 days a lot as a minimum for the cycle. Don't forget, for the behavior tools log, I'm asking for a 10-day record of your use of antecedent and consequence control techniques. But this can just be for 7 days. Just graph one variable, and then there's a comment section when you upload your spreadsheets. Write a sentence or two describing the patterns you see in the graphs. It can be a very simple pattern. Here I have spreadsheet templates that really help you do this, available in Numbers, which is a free app on all Apple products, Excel, which a lot of people have. It's part of Microsoft Office 365. A lot of people have it anyway, and I think you can import this, not important, sorry, but import it into Google Sheets. Google Sheets is a free spreadsheet software. You want to export whatever you got here after you graph it into PDF. Let's see if I can go back here, and let me show you how this works, and then I'll get to some examples and we'll be done. Let's see if I can get to, oh, here we are. Okay, so here's a graph. It's numbers. That's what the basic thing looks like. It has a little format thing you can pull in over here if you want to change things a bit. But to simplify the interface, you go right there. And then the nice thing about spreadsheets is they do a lot of things automatically for you. You only have to tell them once, and then they start doing it. Notice here I'm expecting days of the week would be entered. So let's see. Today is the 21st. Using the American month, day, year entry form. And then we have days of the week. Now, I'm imagining you would actually enter this as actual data. Maybe I'm going to enter the number of times I make video recordings of talks for my teaching, a sort of self-management thing. And I think I'm now up to 4 tries. Hopefully this one works. You don't have to record other variables unless you want to. I could record the number of swear words I use, something I'm still working on. I could record how much time I spend on this. That would be interesting too, but for right now, just one variable is fine. And then as days go on, and the nice thing about spreadsheets is you can do all sorts of kind of magic things with them. You just grab this little button in Excel and Numbers. And then for the intervals, you want to record actual data, maybe 5 records, maybe 2, 1, nothing. I'll leave here, and then I start here. And you can see this is automatically going down, making entry really nice and easy. But you can see over here on the side, this is automatically graphing. Interval ratio variable, that's just the heading from here, is right here, and then it's graphing it. Now you can often change this, but the variable you're recording is here, and then days of the week are here. You could change this so it's actually dates. The way you do that in Numbers is you pull in the formatting sidebar, and then you can click on these, change any number of things. There's a good help menu there too. And a lot of things that Apple support if you're interested. Similar for Excel. There's a whole lot of things on the web for Excel advice. But to have these graphed automatically is kind of nice, and this is a nice, easy graph. Then what you can do is go up into the Numbers menu, which you can't see, pull it down, export, and to PDF, and there you go. If you decide you want to export it to Excel, you can do that. The exports aren't always perfect. I hope mine's okay. So that's basically how you do it with Numbers. You do something very similar with Excel. AUIT can help you on this, and friends often know Excel pretty well and are more than willing to show you what they know, typically. Let's go back to Safari and just wrap this thing up. So here's the upload link for your behavioral tools log, but also here's the upload link for your graph. Make sure not to confuse them, please. Yeah, I know I just did, but try not to. If the first upload doesn't succeed, you can try again. I allow up to 5 uploads. I'll only read and grade the last upload. And don't forget to add a brief comment, a sentence or two, noting a pattern. What I note for that graph we just saw is, whoa, 100? You're kidding me. I made an error. I'm going to call that 7. There was a break in my recording, but that's okay. And there's been an increase in the number of sessions I recorded here, talks I recorded. I guess I'm trying to clear the decks. Anyway, that's a simple summary of a pattern. If it was something like number of hours slept, I would say, oh, I really didn't sleep much here. Oy. But here I'm sort of recovering, so that's nice. And that would be the kind of comment I'm looking for. Nothing big, just an overall summary. And these averages and medians, they could be useful later. I just wanted to illustrate how these things can be programmed to automatically calculate the average just of the entries. And you'll find the same thing here. Median is a little different measure of central tendency, and a little fairer, less biased by extreme low or extreme high things. More on that later if you're interested. For now, that's it, folks. If you got questions, ask them. brian.yates@american.edu or message me in the Canvas inbox. That's all for now.